If you ever hear your own name being called from the darkness, stop. Listen carefully. And whatever you do, don't answer. There are legends meant to be shared, passed down as warnings or stories by the fire. And then there are legends you're told never to speak aloud, not because they aren't real, but because remembering them is believed to draw their attention. Tonight, we're stepping into one of those stories, one that doesn't live in ancient ruins or forgotten kingdoms, but in forests, deserts, and quiet roads that still exist today. I'm your guide, and together we're uncovering the truth behind the Skinwalker. In the traditions of the Navajo people, the Skinwalker is not a creature born from nature. It begins as a human, a person who once lived among others, who made a choice that crossed a line so forbidden it stripped away their humanity. Through dark rituals and the rejection of sacred laws, this person is said to gain unnatural abilities, including the power to transform into animals or wear their skins like disguises. But this transformation is never perfect. Stories describe bodies that move incorrectly, limbs that bend the wrong way, eyes that reflect light like an animal's, yet burn with something far more aware. When a skinwalker takes the form of a wolf, a coyote, or a deer, something always feels off. Too tall, too thin, too deliberate, as if the creature is imitating life rather than truly being alive. Yet appearance is only the surface of the legend. What makes the Skinwalker truly terrifying is its intelligence. Unlike many creatures of folklore, it doesn't rely on brute force alone. It observes, it learns, it studies people the way a hunter studies prey. Legends say it can mimic voices perfectly, the voice of a friend, a family member, even your own voice. Hunters told stories of hearing someone they knew calling for help deep in the woods, only to realize later that person was miles away. And there is one rule that appears again and again in every version of the story. If you hear it, do not respond. The Skinwalker is said to thrive on confusion and fear. It doesn't rush its victims. It waits for isolation, for doubt, for that moment when exhaustion or curiosity makes someone take one step closer. If you're enjoying this journey through myth and legend, support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. New stories await, and the deeper we explore folklore together, the more you'll realize some legends were never meant to be forgotten. Elders warned that once it knows you've acknowledged it, once you've answered, it has already gained power over you. Many who claim to have encountered a skinwalker describe the same feeling before they even see it. An unnatural silence, the forest going quiet, insects stopping, wind dying down, as if the land itself is holding its breath. Some report overwhelming dread, nausea, or the sudden certainty that they are being watched by something that understands them far too well. And then, movement. Figures running alongside vehicles at impossible speeds. Shapes standing just beyond the reach of headlights before vanishing. Footprints that begin as human and slowly turn into animal tracks mid-stride. Witnesses often say the fear doesn't come from what they see. It comes from the realization that whatever is watching them knows exactly who they are. What's unsettling is how consistent these stories remain. From rural reservations to modern highways, from decades ago to recent years, people who have never met describe the same details, the same glowing eyes, the same distorted forms, the same instinctive fear that tells them something is deeply wrong long before their mind catches up. And that raises a disturbing question. How does a legend survive this long, unchanged? To understand why the Skinwalker inspires such fear, we have to look beyond the monster itself and into the belief system that created it. In Navajo tradition, the Skinwalker is not just a supernatural threat, it is a warning, a symbol of what happens when someone abandons balance, respect, and harmony with the world. According to the stories, becoming a skinwalker requires committing acts so taboo they sever the individual from their community and the natural order. These acts are never described in detail, and that silence is intentional. Elders believed that speaking too openly about the process could invite the spirit's influence. What matters is not how the transformation happens, but the cost. To gain power, the person gives up everything that makes them human. Once transformed, the Skinwalker is said to live on the edges of society. It avoids large groups and targets those who are alone, injured, or emotionally vulnerable. Travelers, hunters, people returning home late at night. The legend teaches that isolation is dangerous, not just physically but spiritually. And here's where the stories take an even darker turn. The Skinwalker doesn't just hunt bodies, it hunts trust. Many encounters describe the creature appearing as someone familiar. A neighbor standing silently by the road, a dog that looks almost normal but watches too intently, a voice calling for help in a tone that feels rehearsed, slightly delayed like an echo pretending to be alive. The goal isn't immediate violence, it's hesitation. That brief moment where you question your instincts and override your fear. That moment is when people get hurt. Some accounts claim skinwalkers can influence thoughts, planting doubt or curiosity, urging people to investigate instead of flee. Others say prolonged exposure brings nightmares, paranoia, and the sensation of being followed even in safe places. Whether literal or psychological, the effect is always the same: a slow erosion of certainty. Modern encounters follow the same pattern. Drivers report animals pacing their cars at night, keeping up effortlessly no matter how fast they go. Campers tell of something circling their tents for hours without making a sound. Families describe hearing scratching at doors only to find no tracks. Or worse, tracks that begin human and end animal. What's unsettling is how often these stories end not with an attack, but with escape. Survivors don't describe triumph. They describe relief, confusion, a lingering fear that whatever they encountered didn't fail. It simply chose not to continue, as if the encounter itself was a test. Or a warning, and that idea appears repeatedly in Skinwalker lore. The creature doesn't need to kill everyone it meets. It wants to be remembered, feared, spoken about in hushed voices. The fear itself sustains the legend, reinforcing the lesson passed down for generations. Do not wander where you don't belong, and do not ignore the rules meant to protect you. But here's where things get truly uncomfortable. The Navajo are not the only culture with stories like this. Across the world, we find eerily similar legends, beings that wear animal forms, mimic human behavior, and prey on isolation. From European werewolves to Asian shapeshifters, the concept appears again and again, separated by oceans yet bound by the same themes, so the question becomes impossible to ignore. Is the Skinwalker just a story? Or is it one name for something humanity has always feared? When people try to dismiss the Skinwalker as pure myth, one problem always remains: the consistency of the encounters. These stories don't behave like random campfire tales. They follow patterns, the same behaviors, the same warnings, the same consequences. And that's exactly why they've endured for so long. In Navajo culture, the Skinwalker is rarely named directly. People refer to it indirectly, using euphemisms or gestures instead of words. The belief is that attention strengthens it, fear feeds it, curiosity invites it closer. This is not a monster you challenge, it's one you avoid. Those who claim to have survived encounters often describe a chilling realization. The moment they recognized something was wrong, the creature reacted, as if awareness itself triggered it. A dog standing on two legs for just a second too long. A person smiling without blinking. A voice repeating the same phrase with no emotion behind it. The most disturbing detail is how intelligent it appears. Skinwalkers are said to study their targets. They learn routines. They observe patterns of behavior. They wait until people are tired, stressed, or distracted. Unlike animals, they don't rush. They linger, watching, testing boundaries. And when they retreat, they do so deliberately, leaving behind uncertainty instead of closure. This intelligence is what separates the Skinwalker from simple folklore beasts. It's not a force of chaos. It's a predator shaped by intention. Some Navajo elders explain the Skinwalker as a corrupted reflection of what humans are capable of becoming. A being that chooses power over connection, survival over morality, control over balance. In that sense, the legend isn't about an external monster. It's about an internal one. And that interpretation may explain why the legend still resonates today. In modern times, reports don't come from distant deserts alone. They come from highways, from rural towns, from places where nature presses close against human boundaries. Videos circulate online showing animals behaving strangely. Audio recordings capture voices calling names no one spoke. Most can be explained, some cannot. But what matters isn't proof. What matters is impact. People who experience these events often change. They become more cautious, more aware of their surroundings, less willing to wander alone at night. The story does exactly what it was always meant to do. It modifies behavior. That's how the Skinwalker survives. Not through physical form, but through memory. And here's the detail many people overlook. In traditional stories, Skinwalkers are not unstoppable. They are not immortal gods. They are broken beings, trapped by the choices they made. Feared, yes, but also pitied. Their existence is a consequence, not a reward. They can be resisted by staying grounded, by traveling in groups, by respecting the land, by listening to warnings instead of dismissing them as superstition. In other words, the same rules that keep people safe in real life. Which leads us to the final question. If the Skinwalker legend was designed to protect people, why does it feel so real? The Skinwalker endures because it exists at the intersection of fear and choice. It's a legend that doesn't demand belief, only awareness. You don't have to be certain it's real for its lesson to work. You only need to hesitate before ignoring your instincts. Across generations, the story has served as a boundary marker, a reminder that not everything meant to be known should be approached casually, that some knowledge carries responsibility, and that power, when taken without respect, always demands a price. In this way, the Skinwalker is less a monster of claws and teeth and more a mirror. It reflects what happens when survival becomes an excuse for cruelty, when ambition overrides community, when a person decides that the rules no longer apply to them. The transformation isn't about magic, it's about erosion. One choice at a time. That's why so many stories end without resolution. The creature doesn't always attack. It watches, it waits, and then it disappears, leaving behind a question rather than an answer. Was it really there? Or was it something inside the witness that recognized danger before the mind could explain it? Even today, many Navajo people discourage outsiders from obsessing over the legend. Not because it isn't fascinating, but because it isn't entertainment. It's a cautionary tale, one that asks for respect, not curiosity alone. And yet, here we are, telling the story anyway. Not to summon fear, but to understand why it exists. Why it has survived unchanged while countless other myths faded away. Why, when someone hears a strange voice calling their name at night, their first instinct is still to freeze. Because some warnings are older than reason. So if you ever find yourself alone, walking a quiet road or driving through unfamiliar land, and you hear something that sounds almost human, remember this legend. Trust your instincts. Don't answer, and keep moving forward. I'm your guide, and this has been a journey into one of the most unsettling legends ever told. Not because it hides in the dark, but because it reminds us how thin the line really is between human and monster. And perhaps that's the scariest part of all. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. New stories, creatures, and mysteries are coming every week. See you in the next one.